Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the UGAsports.com Quick Take. I'm your host, Jason Butt, and hey, we're just one day away from the SEC Championship. Georgia versus LSU. It's for the conference, and obviously this is a game that Georgia hasn't had too much success in under Kirby Smart. He got there in year two in 2017 and was able to beat Auburn in what was a rematch. However, in the conference title games that he's made since, he has been unsuccessful. 2018 Alabama, 2019 LSU, and last year 2021 against Alabama. All three of those games were losses. This is a little bit different. As everybody knows, when Georgia played Auburn, I would actually liken this game to that Georgia-Auburn game. Now, Auburn was in contention as a two-loss team to make the playoff if they would have won the SEC that year. And Georgia, and Auburn actually beat Georgia pretty handily in the regular season. However, I don't think there were a whole lot of people who, really with the benefit of hindsight, because I say that, but I do kind of remember a lot of people picking Auburn to win that game. But at the same time, I don't think people were necessarily on board with Auburn being the best team in the country at the time, or a team that was one of the best to play in recent memory. And that was those other teams. When you talk about 2018 Alabama with Tua Tagovailoa, when you talk about 2019 LSU, which may have been one of if not the greatest offense in college football history, especially when you look back at what those players are doing in the NFL. Talk about Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the running back, offensive linemen who are in the NFL. And now Cushenberry being the star of that offensive line. You look at that team and you're thinking, okay, well, makes a little sense why LSU would win that game. That's one of the greater teams in recent memory. And then, of course, last year's Alabama team, which was the closest to Georgia. I mean, you talk about equals in a sense. I mean, Alabama got the better of Georgia in the SEC championship. Georgia just so happened to get the better of Alabama in the national championship. This LSU team, though, not nearly up to the standard of any of the teams that Georgia has played in the SEC championship to date. They are a work in progress. The fact that LSU is in this game is a pretty substantial feat, if you're asking me, because this was supposed to be another year for Alabama. Alabama had two losses, one of them to LSU, and then also the high-scoring affair against Tennessee. Ole Miss, they were the other good team in the SEC West, and really, good offense, not a good defense when it was all said and done as the season played out. Arkansas, not a great team out there. Just really a down year for the SEC West, and as it turned out, they beat up on each other, not looking impressive in doing so. And so now you're kind of left thinking, okay, so Alabama was in a rebuilding year. That's odd. LSU is in a not in the same sense, but also rebuilding. But they're rebuilding under Brian Kelly. The fact that Brian Kelly is kind of backed his way into the SEC championship, and I say that not out of it with any kind of malice or anything. It's just the way it is. I mean, you're talking about a 3-loss team, 2 losses in the conference, and coming off of one to Texas A&M, which finished 5-7, and you're still making the SEC championship game. I mean, it goes to show the talent disparity on this team compared to the teams that Georgia has played in the past. And so for Georgia, ultimately, as it has in a lot of games this season, when Georgia has struggled, a lot of it's been due to beating itself. Missouri was a good example. Georgia just kept shooting itself in the foot, making mistakes, not being mentally sound, missing on the big plays. And that's why you ended up seeing Georgia down 10 and having to rally to win by 2 in the fourth quarter. You look at the Kentucky game. That's the other game that was relatively close when it was all said and done. That game, they had a chance to go up 24. Really, it was anywhere between 22 and 24. You get to 22, and then you either go for 1, go up to 23, or you go for 2 to get to 24. Obviously, if you miss 2, you stay at 22. They had a chance to get in that 22 to 24 range to 0 at the 1-yard line, and they couldn't punch the ball in. And then conversely, the defense allowed Will Levis in Kentucky to drive 99 yards the other way for a touchdown. That's mental stuff that just can't happen in a game like the SEC Championship, regardless of who you're playing, because anything can happen. It's not like LSU's a bad team. They're just not one of those elite teams that Georgia has played in these kind of games in recent years. But that doesn't mean that LSU can't knock off the upset or pull off the upset. Now, Georgia has to stay sound, in that regard. Limit the mental mistakes, limit the turnovers. They can probably afford one turnover in this game. I think anything more than one, and you start stepping into dangerous territory. And they've got to they really got to just show up and not overlook the opponent, which they haven't done. And that's the one thing about this Georgia team and this coaching staff is they do a great job with the talent they have and keeping them from overlooking teams. More so, the defense has been great all season long. And it's funny because I think it's easy to nitpick the defense. When Georgia Tech goes down the field and scores on the opening drive, it's like, what's wrong with the defense? And then Georgia Tech doesn't score again until the backups come in and on a 4th and 1 trick play on a Philly special. So, defense has been, you haven't seen any of that with them. I think some of the recent play, especially focusing on the offense, has taken away from just how special this defense has been yet again, despite all the NFL losses that Georgia has experienced. And so if the offense can stay on track, can score early, and I think this is a great opportunity to get Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington back involved in a major way. You've seen teams try and take them away and force Georgia to rely on the receiving options, which are fine. I mean, Marcus Rasemy-Jacksaint, he's out there catching a touchdown. Ladd McConkey's really been playing his best football of late. We'll see if A.D. Mitchell plays. If A.D. Mitchell plays on Saturday, this is a big addition to a team that could really, really use him as somebody who then draws more attention and can create more opportunities elsewhere, even if it is A.D. Mitchell as a decoy as he gets back up to speed and it gets back up to full health. So we'll see where Georgia is on that front, just in just a little more than 24 hours. But to me, I think Georgia's going to win. I think they're going to cover the 17.5, like I mentioned the other day. I think that Georgia ultimately, it can be close early. I wouldn't be surprised at the first quarter. You've got a 7-3 or 7-7 or 3-3 or something like that, maybe even scoreless, and then Georgia gradually pulls away. The one thing that Georgia hasn't been in a lot of games outside of Oregon and Tennessee and South Carolina, those are the three that come to mind, is explosive in the first quarter. But one thing that Georgia has done well is they have been able to pull away thanks to the defense not giving much up and then the offense finding its groove as the course of the game goes on. But I really think if Georgia can get a touchdown on its first 2 drives, then Georgia's going to be in a great position moving forward for the rest of the game. The talent discrepancy is there, as I mentioned. So I really like Georgia to win this one and to finally get its first SEC championship since the 2017 season, and then to be undefeated and ready to play in the Peach Bowl for the first round of the playoff. So that's where I see it. We'll see if that plays out. Time will tell. And on that note, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, if you haven't, mash that subscribe button. Share this with your friends. Go to the UGAsports.com dog vent. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It's the best community for Georgia sports fans on the entire internet. Just want to tell you how awesome you are. And I've been Jason Butt. Y'all take care.